Welcome back to our show, your show, Let's Talk Stocks. As we told you before, our conversation with Rory DeSilva could not have been done in one show. And so join us now for part 2 of what is a very interesting conversation about real estate investing and all the benefits that could be in it for you. When I look at the US market, during COVID, we saw where rates came down significantly.
Record,
and I mean, purchases of home just took off.
Yeah.
People went upstate, people were moving back out to New York, or cheaper properties, good properties. Are we likely to see anything like that? Where will the real estate market be going, as things normalize?
Yeah, I think that was a once in a lifetime type of opportunity. It's funny because now those same mortgages, right, when you have the 2% to 3% mortgages, that's now considered a prized possession. So there are real estate strategies now being utilized where people are trying to have those mortgages left in place and then transition to get ownership to another investor. Because now when that mortgage is at 2 to 3%, the property cash flow is better because the debt cost is much lower. So I don't think we'll ever see, and I mean, there's good and bad to that situation. The good is property is more affordable, people can buy. The bad is, as an investor, now you're competing with just a ridiculous market, right? A lot of investors got burnt in that period because now they were overpaying because they had to compete. And then when rates started creeping back up, they couldn't get the prices they were hoping for. So it's a delicate balance where you have to be able to manage, both sides of the coin. But I don't think we'll be back down to that rate. Probably in the fives on the Fed side. But yeah.
As you talk about that, and you are pushing education, how important is it for people to understand the mortgage rate situation, one, and the type of mortgage that they get? So people talk to you about the fixed rate 30-year mortgages versus the
floating
kind of changing. How important is it that people begin to understand these concepts when they're looking to buy and funds, finances there?
Incredibly important, right? This can make or break a real estate transaction, right? When someone is, and just to kind of simplify, as you said, you have the fixed rate where you agree to borrow the money at a set percent for a set amount of time, and you have a floating rate where it might be tied to some form of index or another rate. So basically, that rate can go up or it can go down, right? We don't know until we get to that point. So the risk there is if someone decides today that, let's just use numbers, a 5% mortgage to purchase a house, and they're just able to afford that property at 5%. Now, if they weren't educated enough by their lender or even through their personal reading, they would have said, hey, 5%, I'm good. Now, what happens, which was what happened after COVID, that 5%, if it was a floating rate, could easily go on up to 8, 9. So now that same borrower is in a situation where they said, hey, I signed up for 5, where am I now? So totally it puts them in a very sticky situation. So having the education and the knowledge to know when you're speaking to a lender, you're asking questions like, is this a floating or is this a fixed rate? What is the term of the mortgage? When would the loan be due? Are there any fees, right? Lender fees. Yes. That is something that's often overlooked. So you need to get prepared.
Education
is
critically important.
Yeah.
You're in the US, people talk a lot about flipping houses. Some people got burned back in the 2008, 2010 financial meltdown. Is that now going to be a thing again as markets normalize? And the second part is that something that could be looked at in Jamaica?
Yeah, it is a personal mission of mine to figure out the local landscape to see if we can get some projects going down here. Overseas, I'll speak to the overseas side. So I'm fortunate to be partners in a construction company, Hummingbird Construction, which is also owned by Jamaicans, and we're based in South Florida. And we see the need, and I don't think this is unique to America. There's a need for housing, right? Whether you're doing a fix and flip or whether you're building it from ground up. So being able to satisfy that need, right, by building quality products that people can move into and enjoy is definitely something that's across the board will always be in demand. Now, as it relates to the fix and flip strategy, one of the things I love about this strategy is that you're often taking dilapidated houses that run down and, you know, people might be squatting in there, and you're taking these properties and giving them a complete facelift and making the area look, you know, more presentable. So if you think about locally, how many times have you been driving on the road and you see a house and you say, boy, this house, but just, you know, you're driving to your house and you just sit there and say, boy, I'm gonna like see this house, you know.
Yeah.
If you could have the tools and the knowledge and the expertise to see that house and say, hey, you know what, let me try find the owner of this property. Let me reach out to them. They might be in a situation. I'll pay you cash. I'll take on the property, put some money into it, fix it, and then put it back on the market, and that can be a home for our next family.
Here's an elephant in the room, Rory. Crime has been a big challenge for us. How much percent of GDP is lost through crime? And as we look at, let's say, take Kingston, Kingston and St. Andrew, KCC here. As the crime grows, people move up into the hills, leaving a lot of possible, potentially prime real estate behind. Were we to get a handle on the crime, could we see these areas become prime prospects for the fix and flip? I mean, really returning them to their former glory.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think a good analogy or a situation of that is what's happening downtown, right? So seeing that revitalization is something I love, like coming back every time driving from the airport back home to Maypen and seeing what's going on is something that I really enjoy seeing and driving through. And I mean, you know, the issue of crime it isn't unique to Jamaica, but, you know, it all stems from a mindset of scarcity, right? Lack of opportunity, right? So if we can create some more opportunities for employment where people can actually earn meaningful incomes, right, we might get the crime under control. And now to the property values in those areas that have depreciated since crime came in, if we can go in and do joint efforts, right, where maybe the projects that are being restored or renovated, we're using local people, right? Now you're providing you're providing employment, right, for them to earn an income, so you're less likely to run into the issue where you have a project going and people stealing. You know, they're looting materials and stuff, right? You have to find a way to integrate the locals into that project. You can't just come in and say, okay, we're going to be doing this whole overall and then whoever's here has to go. They have to be a part of the solution.
So therefore, it could be a part of the crime solution strategy to look at, as you talk about the revitalization of downtown, redoing some of the homes just outside of us here, were we to build proper urban facilities. Would that be profitable though? Who would buy?
Yeah, so the way how you have to look at real estate investing, every real estate transaction can be profitable. It all comes down to the cost, right? So it's just a simple math equation that says, you know, based on me purchasing the property for X amount, and you do your forecast and say it should be worth X amount, as long as the numbers make sense, then there's profitability or the potential profit, right? Now, what ends up running into issues with real estate investors and developers is that in-between process we actually start. Because you might budget millions, you know, X millions of dollars for the project and it ended up twice or triple the amount you were supposed to. And that's where you run into issues down the road.
as you talk about that, we're just coming out of local government elections. I think they're still counting.
Yeah. Yeah.
Should that be a priority for local administrators, the municipal corporations? Should it be a priority for them? Town planning certainly sits, and many building approvals sit with the local authorities. Should that be something that the new councillors, municipal authorities coming in, should that be a priority to look at urban planning, real estate development, the time lag for approvals of projects and so on?
I highly recommend the government looking at real estate development in these pockets, right? Because it's amazing to see how real estate investment can completely change a community. Having urban planning done effectively, right, where you know the types of developments that you're putting in these pockets will completely change the mood of the people, the crime rates, everything, the involvement, everything. But it all comes down to the planning. You can't look on a certain pocket of, let's say, Kingston, and you say, you know, we're just going to do all high-rises, luxury high-rises, right? It has to be give and take. You might have high-rises, but you also have affordable housing. You also have social housing, right? Or even recreational spaces, parks,
yes,
right? It's not only the housing, real estate, there's commercial real estate, right? So maybe supermarkets, you know, your retail.
I haven't spoken about that at all.
Yeah, and that's the thing, real estate, it's such a wide range of opportunities. You can go in any direction.
To give us the wrap-up signal,
Yeah.
and you touch on that. Is Kingston set prime for commercial real estate development?
Yes. Yes,
Short
yes, yes,
answer.
yes, 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 yes. Specifically, one sector that I've experienced in storage and warehousing. I think that is a very big need in Kingston as a growing city. E-commerce, people importing more and more goods. Huge need for storage. So, short answer, yes.
Yeah. Rory, what you want to leave on the minds of people? You're into real estate, but also into the education side of it. What would you leave as we look to wrap?
I would say people need to think more about real estate investments. I think there's a lot more attention going towards the stock market, but real estate has made the most millionaires from an industry standpoint, and it's no surprise. Because with real estate, you can actually own a tangible asset that you can pass down to your kids, you know, generations to come. The longer you invest in real estate is the more profitable and the more wealthy you become as an individual. So if it's anything I could leave is to get educated, start with education, understand the different options that are available, and then take some action and get started.
Well, Rory, so much to talk about to continue forever. But
Yes.
you're absolutely correct. All the statistics has shown that real estate and equities has provided the best returns over the long term. And even when we talk about going against inflation and devaluation. So you're absolutely correct.
Yeah.
Great show this morning. I had a great chat with Rory DeSilva, CEO and founder of Jamvest, about the real estate market, investing in real estate, and all the things that could flow from it. As we always say here on Let's Talk Stocks, we give you information to make better financial decisions. Come back with us tomorrow morning at 9. We'll have another wonderful show lined up for you.